We were saying before about how a leader will reflect their own issues, their own limitations, their limiting beliefs. If someone is leading a company, will often find that they are surrounded by their limiting beliefs in the form of people, right? And as a result of that, the more that a leader does the work on themselves, they can release people around them from having to participate in that drama.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? So it's like, oh, not that we have necessarily a lot of leaders who are like this, who may have issues with men who want to have power over them or something like that. They have daddy issues will be a very
or mommy issues.
Or mommy issues. They have parent issues in whatever way. And all of a sudden they find that there's somebody who's coming in who looks and acts and is like that. And all of a sudden they are acting like a child. They are acting like their childhood self. They can't overcome the limiting belief. They can't overcome the circumstance of whatever it is. And therefore everybody around them is kind of forced into this drama of the psychodrama of what it is to do that. Right. And it's something I've seen so many times.
I've got a multidimensional question for you too, is how do you help executives and culture or how do you help the executives recognize their own limitations, their limitation of the culture? And then how do you do that on the three levels? We talked about the mind, the heart, and what was
gut.
On the gut. And so how do you do it on those different levels? And then how do you do it on an individual and a structural level? Because I know you're very much into structure and process like me. So how does that work in practical terms when you're working with companies or leaders?
I'll give you the clue, and you can read the label from inside the jar, so you hire Kristina.
Okay.
To be able to help you reflect on what's there.
And what ends up happening is that when I work with people, I find that there is a lot that obviously, especially with entrepreneurs and people who are, tech CEOs and things along those lines, is that they'll bring stuff that they're seeing in their own life. And then they're like, I want to go do this at my company. And you're saying, okay, but there's a lot that's behind this desire to kind of project into the company the thing that you're working on yourself and recognize that there's something there. We've come up with a framework called the ABCs, which I think addresses the head, the heart, and the gut: alignment, balance, and coherence. And the reason that I bring that up in this context is because there's a framework that says if you can kind of get to the basics inside of yourself of alignment, balance, and coherence, and then you can look at your company and do alignment, balance, and coherence, everything's going to work out a lot better. Alignment is all about principles. It's that mental aspect of like, I have the most universal principles that I can possibly come up with.
Higher order.
Mm-hmm. Is what you were talking about earlier with what is cultivating abundance.
Higher order,
Mm-hmm.
higher vibration. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the difference between saying, some says that we will never hire somebody from this state. It's a limiting belief. It's a principle that doesn't make any sense, right? It says, okay, maybe there's a logistical reason for that. But what is a more universal principle that says we're going to, do something that can align with people in the company?
Yeah. And then balance, if you want to focus it on your heart, it's really the embracement of the paradox. We live in a world of duality,
Mm-hmm.
And in business, you're fighting two things. You want to have exceptional service or great costs or a product that you make. The best quality or affordability.
Yeah.
These things on the surface are in opposition to each other, two sides of the same coin, and great leaders embrace that paradox. They don't fight it. They don't have to feel like they have to choose from one to the other. Just have to sort of balance between the two and just realize that they're both necessary. And it's the leader's ability to find the point of balance, homeostasis for the system, to perform properly, that makes a critical difference. And then it gets down to coherence as the last step.
Yes. And coherence, I would relate to the gut in the same way that you would say that, you maybe go to the heart doctor every day and look after your heart, something like that. You maybe never go to a neurologist, right? You set a principle up in there and you kind of set it on go and it keeps running. But the gut you feed every day.
Mm-hmm.
Coherence is about what are you doing every day? Like, what are you doing every moment to regulate your nervous system, to make sure that you are showing up with the best possible practices that you can, and that you're able to take one foot and put it in front of the other and actually apply all of these practices that you find in balance with, getting that cognitive dissonance and holding it to apparent opposing truths at the same time, that you're incorporating your principles and you're actually doing it on a daily basis. It's not just lip service. It's not just let's go to a retreat and have all these great thoughts and not actually do it. And so that is the coherence is how does the rubber hit the road every day?
Right.
And how are you dealing with the bumps that come along with
It's having the conviction that what you're doing is the right thing to do, because you've gone through the filter of what do I think about this, what do I feel about this, and what is my gut telling me. A well-informed gut is great. An ill-informed gut's terrible, because it doesn't take the other two into account. But there is a brain in our gut that exists in our solar plexus just as much as one sits up here in our mind that tells us. Everyone knows that. How do you feel about that? And that's a gut feel, right? Derek talks about the gut feel. Or a woman's intuition is the other one that people realize. Another one of these gut things. And that's what it comes down to. And so coherence is then having the courage to move forward with your conviction. Not necessarily the certainty, because you may be certain, but you may not be right.
Yeah.
But at least you understand why you're doing what you're doing. You've thought it through. You've looked at the consequences, and you move forward with courage and conviction to make it reality.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is calming down the nervous system so that you're actually checking in with your gut and maybe not the third cup of coffee you had.
Yeah. Exactly. Because there's a real physiological thing called heart-mind coherence, which says there is actually a hierarchy.
Well, you two have done it before, right?
Yeah.
I think I walked in your house and I saw this thing.
Yeah.
Tell me how that worked and how you work with leaders on that.
So heart rate variability
Yeah.
is what is being measured when we measure heart-mind coherence. And it's this idea that for anybody who's ever sung in a choir or anyone who's ever been in a place where everybody's breathing at the same time, everyone can kind of naturally get into that coherent state, especially in a group coherent state. Those are two examples of those. Is that it's a state of relaxation in which you're breathing in and out through your chest. Some people choose to breathe gratitude in and out through your chest. They think about something they're grateful for, they think about someone they love, something like that. And what happens is the physiology changes quite dramatically, honestly, when you're in that state.
Absolutely.
And the mind is no longer the one that's in charge, because ultimately heart-mind coherence and the practice says the heart is actually the best master of the entire system, the enteric system, which is the gut, the brain and the heart. If we allow and if we actually concentrate our attention on the heart, the whole system's going to come into alignment, and suddenly you're not off chasing a cup of coffee. You're not off, kind of hangry. You're not doing all these different things. That heart is actually governing the system coherently.
So as a leader, I can learn how to do this, and that's going to calm my system down. And a calm system is I'm going to be a better leader.
Yes.
How do I apply that to the culture of my company? How do I apply that to the leaders and the people that work?
I think the biggest thing that happens, the outcome of that, is that you're present.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're present, regardless of what happens in front of you, you're able to respond to it appropriately, because you're not in a fight or flight. I mean, our gut is our animal instinct, right? That's fight or flight. What's going on here. That's where you kind of get the vibe from somebody. Your head's in a different place, your heart's in a different place, but if they're all working together and you're present, and no matter what comes at you, not that you're indifferent to it, but you don't have to get engaged with it in a negative way, because it's not triggering anything in you. I talked about that earlier. Something might get triggered because of past relationships and things like that. If someone comes from an abusive family or a family where you were neglected emotionally, that's going to affect your other relationships and work. It's all relationships. You not be in an intimate relationship, but you're in a relationship. Yeah. And at the end of the day, and for all the stuff we're talking about, you got to get results in the business.
That's right.
The business has got to make money, period. Otherwise, as Stephen Covey once said, no margin, no mission. So, and what we're talking about is really not soft, squishy little kind of Oprah moments. These are the realities of dealing with yourself to be the best that you can be, and then dealing with a culture to allow people to help create an environment which they can be willingly show up to be the best that they can be and not get out of shape. And that's really what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And what you recognize is that coherence, the actual state of coherence, is contagious. One person goes into a room and they have coherence, and everybody else, if they're going to allow it, if they're looking after their own system, they can all fall into balance, and a meeting feels a lot different.
Yeah.
Right. Very practical.